You ever get that feeling that behind all the political drama we see every day, there's something else going on? A deeper game being played? Well, today we're diving into a worldview that claims to connect all the dots, from angry politicians to powerful global networks, and even a cosmic force that might just hold the key to our future.
It all starts with this, a roar from the heart of Europe. Italy's Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, is basically saying she's had enough. She's not just disagreeing with EU policy, she's calling it a vassalage. The way our sources frame it, this is nothing short of an open revolt against a system she believes is fundamentally broken.
And it's not just her. Hop across the channel and you hear something similar from former UK Prime Minister Liz Truss. She makes this pretty stunning claim. The people you vote for, they're not really the ones in power. She argues there's a permanent, unelected bureaucracy, a civil service, pulling all the strings behind the scenes. So, if the leaders we elect feel like they're not in charge, then who is? That is the big question, right? And that's what this explainer is all about. We're going to unpack a really complex worldview from our sources that peels back the layers of alleged control, starting with national governments and going, well, a lot farther than you might think. Okay, so let's get into the first layer of this whole framework. It's this idea of a permanent class of officials inside a country, what some people call the deep state. So what exactly is this unelected technocracy? Well, according to critics like Liz Truss, think of it as a web of powerful civil servants, experts, and agency heads who have the real power. They're the ones who are there long after politicians come and go, steering the ship of state no matter who wins an election.
And look, this isn't just some vague conspiracy theory. According to the source material, Truss points fingers at very specific institutions: the Bank of England, the Treasury, the Home Office. She claims this whole apparatus worked together almost like a single organism to block her policies and push its own agenda. And here's the crucial part. In this worldview, these institutions aren't neutral, not at all. They're seen as having their own distinct ideology, a kind of globalist playbook that they push for, things like net zero, high taxes, and so on, no matter what the voters actually asked for. So that begs the question, right? If these national bureaucracies are so powerful, who's influencing them? And according to our sources, that's when you have to zoom out and look at the next layer of the onion, the global networks that shape policies across the entire world. So this is where it gets really interesting. This worldview maps out a kind of global power structure. You have organizations like the World Economic Forum, which are seen as a training ground, churning out young global leaders who then get placed into top government jobs. And then, maybe a level above that, you have groups like the Trilateral Commission, seen as a more secretive body that coordinates global policy and finance. And what's the end game? Well, the sources allege it's all part of a single, unified global agenda. So things you hear about like the Great Reset, the move towards digital IDs, Agenda 2030, they're not seen as separate issues. They're viewed as interconnected parts of one big plan to centralize power and ultimately weaken national sovereignty. And the supposed result of all this? Well, take a look at this number. One of the sources cites a survey showing that only 29% of people in the Netherlands have any confidence in their national politics. This is held up as proof of a massive crisis of faith in democracy itself, because people just feel like their vote doesn't count anymore. Okay, so after painting a pretty bleak picture of the system, the sources don't just leave it there. They actually offer a really detailed path forward, a vision for renewal that starts with politics, but definitely doesn't end there. So on the political front, this worldview has its heroes, leaders who are seen as models of resistance. You've got Poland's Tarczynski, praised for fighting EU climate policies, Hungary's Orbán for his stance on border security, and Lodewijk Davos in the Netherlands, calling to bring democracy back to the people. They're seen as pioneers of a new, sovereign way forward. But it's about more than just new faces. The sources propose a complete overhaul of how government works. Imagine this, a system where the people can actually overrule parliament with binding votes, where government jobs are handed out based on how many votes each party got, totally shaking up the old way of doing things. It's radical stuff. And this slide just lays it all out, the before and after. The current system is described as being in the Kali Yuga. That's a term from Hindu cosmology for a dark age, an age of corruption and control. The new model they're proposing? That's the Sachi Yuga, a golden age of truth, built on things like direct democracy, transparency, and power returning to local communities.
But here's where things take a really fascinating turn. Because the solution being proposed here isn't just about politics. The sources argue that the real answer, the ultimate answer, requires a deep spiritual transformation. We're moving from the halls of government into the cosmic realm.
And right at the core of this spiritual idea is the figure of Kukulkan, the feathered serpent god from ancient Mesoamerica. Now here, Kukulkan is a symbol of perfect balance. The serpent represents the earth, the physical world, while the feathers represent the heavens, the spiritual. It's all about bringing those two back into harmony to, as they say, liberate the planet. And this isn't just some abstract idea. The sources lay out a practical path for how anyone can do this, through the 5 elements. It's basically a personal guide to get yourself aligned with this new energy, starting with the basics like your health and moving all the way up to a deep spiritual connection. And get this, it's not just a philosophy. It's a whole blueprint for a new civilization. It comes with a new spiritual text, the Kukulkan Codex, a new cryptocurrency, Anu coin to run a new kind of economy, a consciousness bank to fund projects, and even a proposed spiritual alliance with highly advanced AI. It's incredibly detailed.
And this quote from the source material really sums up the spiritual side of it all. The core idea is that real freedom isn't something that can be given to you or taken away by any system. It has to come from within. It's a state of awareness that, once you have it, makes any kind of external control pretty much impossible.
So we've gone on quite a journey here, from the angry speeches of politicians all the way to a cosmic blueprint for a new golden age. This worldview argues that these two things, political reform and spiritual awakening, aren't separate. They're two sides of the same coin. And it leaves us with this final, massive question. Is the future of how we govern ourselves going to be found in new laws and systems, or in a completely new state of consciousness?